Welcome. In this video we are checking out the marketplace asset called Interaction System Starter Pack, which is created by Simon Cura. This video, and I want to make this perfectly clear, is sponsored by Simon and this starter pack. So any sales that is generated by this will directly help this channel financially. So regardless of it being sponsored by Simon, these assets, or this asset that we will be checking out today, will be completely unbiased, and I will give you my honest feedback that is completely unrelated to the sponsorship. So here we are inside of the demonstration level of the asset pack. Now I want to make it perfectly clear here also that the reason why I am promoting this asset is because I have looked through the code and I found that the code is written well enough for any user to either use this as sort of a base plate to have their interaction system and work upon it further, or for someone who's just interested in looking how an interaction system can be made and then can look at this and see like this is a good example to follow. So that is why this is being handled today. And let's demonstrate some of the things that you have here. So one of the things is that you have the interaction with different objects in the world. You can pick something up and it will follow you along. You can throw it, you can drop it, whatever you want. These items can also be interacted with things like in this case here, a pressure plate. The pressure plate is connected to the door and the lights, meaning that if the pressure plate is being used by an object or the character itself, they can be activated sort of. So you see that they have different states. In this case, we also have a panel here which can activate the door and the lights manually. We also have some other examples here. We have some cups we can pick up and throw around if we want to. These are also created in such a way that they allow for destruction. And over here we have an example of a connecting the pipe. So this is a sort of a slot blueprint which allows a certain class of objects to be inserted into it. So we can pick up this object, and if we put it over here, it will automatically slot in and align itself as it's supposed to according to the blueprint. It would not accept any type of blueprint here or class or object. So if we were to take a box, for example, nothing would happen here. It needs to have this specific type of pipe for it to be accepted. Over here we have an example of different types of doors, like the door over there as well. So if we press this button over here, you can see that they slide open, and we can see that this is how these different types of doors work as sort of interaction objects in this example as well. In addition to that, we also have over here a window showing off the same thing. So it's essentially just a button connected to different types of blueprints, and then they're using interfaces to tell them that I am now currently in the correct state, and that allows these objects to either, in this case of the doors, they would open, or in this case of the window, it would fall down. In addition to that, there's also destructible foliage or destructible items. So if we pick up a pickaxe, we can actually mine these. And you can see that they have different effects depending on what we're actually chopping. So the trees themselves have a loot table sort of, where they drop certain items depending on what you have set them up to drop. So you can see that they're preset to have a square of each color and a cylinder of each color, and that the stones are supposed to be destructible and break down into smaller pieces, which also works for the mugs. And over here we also have similar for objects we can mine sort of to create a passage outside of this room if we wanted to. Other things we have, these are again like we have seen earlier, breakable objects, so we can smash them or throw them and they will break. We have more cups and more boxes. We have a gun. We have another pickaxe. And here we have synced inputs, which are just buttons that are connected to each other to make sure that they're in the same state. And ending off here, we have similar to over there with the pipe, we have different inputs here which allows you to put a certain object. So if you bring the object close enough, it will insert it into the proper place. And over here we have one for the box. And these will not take the wrong type of class. So if we were to take this out and drop them and then take a box, it would not accept it as an input essentially. So you have a bunch of different input blueprints, you have a bunch of different interaction blueprints, you have a bunch of different objects that show how you can react in different ways to inputs from objects, and you have some destructible items and items that behave in certain ways when you interact with them in a destructive manner. So those are overall the different parts that are included in this project. How this project is structured is according to the following. You have a folder of blueprints in this pack, and inside of it you have a few groupings. You have connections, you have inputs, and you have items. You also have some items in the objects folder here, but the main parts are connection, inputs, and items. Connections are essentially items that are being interacted with throughout the use of inputs. And in connections you have a base class in the master, and you have a few different examples of connection inputs, or sorry, connection classes. In the input you have a few different types of input classes that are generated from one out of three different input base classes. So you have the button, the input, and the pressure plate. And all of these have slightly different functionality, and you can also add or edit or modify the existing ones. An example of how this works is if we were to check this door here. This blueprint door is a sliding door. It has a connection with this panel and this button, and also this panel inside here, like we showed in the intro. These objects, these inputs, all have connections to other objects that they affect when you interact with them. In this case, there are the lights in the top and the bottom and the door themselves. And they also have some sync actors in some cases, which are supposed to maintain a similar state. So in this case, if you interact with the panel in the front, it interacts with the panel in the back, that's over here, so that they maintain the same state when it's regarding the door. And the pressure plate in this case is maintaining its state depending on if you have something on it or not. And you can see also here that it communicates with these other panels in the sync part here, this panel over here, and this panel over here. So connections are what's interacted with, and inputs are the things that you interact through, essentially. I hope that makes sense. So there you have it. That is the interaction system starter pack and how it functions in a brief void. This pack I would consider to be a good pickup for one out of two different groups. One is the person who is relatively new to Unreal Engine and want to learn on how you can create sort of an interaction system. Especially during the sale, this will be a great and cheap pickup for you to just learn a few different things and have something functioning in a few different manners. The other part or the other group would be people who want to have an interaction system but want to have something to start off with that they can build upon further. This would be a good pickup for you as well. So if you find that you are one of these two different people and you want to learn some more, I will leave a link in the description to this asset if you want to pick it up. It is not well documented or well coded, the code itself. However, the creator, Simon Cura, has created a tutorial on his YouTube, which I will leave a link to down below as well if you want to get a closer look to how it's working. That is going to be all for me today. Keep on learning. Take care.